before we get deep into the story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you're hooked in and ready to enjoy this story. Because tomorrow I have another beautiful story to share with you, and I don't want you to miss it for anything. Emma Torres wiped down the same table for the third time, her dark brown skin gleaming under the fluorescent lights, her natural curls pulled back in practical bun, her hands moving on autopilot while her mind spiraled through impossible math. Rent, $1,500 due in 3 days. Lily's medication, $400. Groceries, maybe $200 if she stretched it. Her bank account balance, $673. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. It was 2 a.m., the graveyard shift she'd taken on top of her day's shifts because one job wasn't enough anymore. Because her ex-husband Derek had decided that child support was optional once he'd started his new family. Because the court didn't care that a single mother working 70 hours a week still couldn't afford a lawyer good enough to make him pay. Coffee, Black, and whatever pie you haven't served to someone else tonight. Emma looked up, her rehearsed smile faltering. The man who just slid into the corner booth wasn't her usual 2 a.m. crowd of truckers and insomniacs. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her car, charcoal gray and perfectly tailored. He was white, pale skin that suggested long hours indoors, dark hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes, steel blue and unervingly direct, tracked her movements with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Apple or cherry?" she asked, falling back on routine. "Surprise me." She brought him an apple with a scoop of vanilla ice cream melting on top and the blackest coffee the ancient machine could produce. He didn't touch either, just sat there, watching the rain streak down the windows, his jaw tight with something that looked like barely controlled fury. Emma had learned not to ask questions. In 7 years of waitressing, she'd seen every kind of late-night soul, the heartbroken, the lonely, the ones running from something. This man was running from something big. She was refilling his untouched coffee when her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a text from her lawyer. Well, the overworked public defender who was doing his best. Court date moved up. Friday. Derek's lawyer filing for primary custody. "They're claiming you're financially unstable." The coffee pot slipped from her hand. Not far, just a few inches, but enough that hot liquid splashed across the counter. Enough that her eyes burned with tears she absolutely could not shed in front of the customer. "I'm so sorry," she managed, grabbing a towel. "I'll get you a fresh cup." "Sit down." It wasn't a request. The man's voice cut through her panic with the kind of authority that made her obey before her brain caught up. She slid into the opposite side of the booth, towel clutched in her hands. "You're in trouble," he said. Not a question. Emma laughed, sharp and brittle. "That obvious? I've seen that look before. In the mirror, usually." He leaned forward, and in the diner's harsh light, she could see he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe 32, 33. Handsome in that severe, controlled way of men who'd never had to ask for anything twice. Financial trouble? She should have lied. Should have smiled and said everything was fine and gotten back to work. Instead, exhaustion made her honest. "My ex is trying to take my daughter. His lawyer is better than mine. He's claiming I can't provide for her," which is... Her voice cracked. "It's not wrong. I'm working 2 jobs, and I still can't make rent. So, yeah, financial trouble." The man was quiet for a long moment, studying her like she was a contract he was considering signing. "How much do you need?" "Excuse me." "To fix this. To win your case, get stable, make the problem go away." "How much?" Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. "I don't need your charity." "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a business transaction." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card, sliding across the table. Alexander Kingsley, CEO, Kingsley Industries. The name hit her like cold water. She'd seen it on billboards downtown, in magazine spreads at the grocery store checkout. Tech billionaire. Youngest self-made fortune under 35. notoriously private. I don't understand, she whispered. Alexander Kingsley leaned back, and something flickered across his pale features. Vulnerability, maybe, there and gone in a heartbeat. My grandfather died 3 months ago. Left me everything. The company, the estate, $5 billion in assets. There's one condition in the will. I have to be married within 6 months, or it all goes to my cousin Marcus, who will dismantle everything my grandfather built and sell it for parts. That's archaic. That's my family. His smile was sharp, humorless. I've been fighting it in court. I'll probably win eventually, but Marcus is making it hell. Every day there's a new story planted in the press about my lifestyle, my reputation. He's trying to paint me as unstable, unfit to run the company. If I show up married, settled, it kills his entire argument. Emma's mouth went dry. You want to hire me to be your wife. For 1 year. After that, quiet divorce, no scandal. In exchange, I'll pay you $5 million. $3 million up front, $2 million when the year is complete. You get the best lawyers money can buy for your custody case. You get housing. You live in my penthouse, separate bedrooms. You get security, health care, whatever your daughter needs. $5 million. Emma couldn't even conceptualize that number. It was more money than she'd earned in 10 lifetimes. It was Lily's college fund. It was never worrying about rent again or medicine or anything. Why me? She asked. You could hire anyone, a model, an actress, someone from your world. Because you need this as much as I do. Because you won't get attached, won't expect this to be real. You know it's business. His eyes bore into hers. And because something in your face tells me you're desperate enough to say yes, but honest enough not to screw me over. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from her lawyer. Derek's filing character witnesses. Need to respond by Friday. Emma thought about Lily, 6 years old with her gap-toothed smile and her collection of stuffed elephants. Lily, who deserved a mother who could take care of her, who could fight for her. Lily, who was worth more than Emma's pride. There would be rules, Alexander continued, pulling out a folder from his briefcase. How long had he been planning this? A contract. You'd need to attend events with me. Play the role in public. No dating other people for the year. It would complicate things. No falling in love. That last part was said with particular emphasis, like a warning. This is a business arrangement. Nothing more. Nothing more, Emma echoed. I need an answer now. My lawyer can have the papers drawn up by morning. Emma looked at the contract he'd slid across the table. Pages and pages of legal text that she'd need to read. Should read, would definitely read before signing. But the header was clear, marriage contract. Duration, 1 year. Compensation, $5 million USD. She thought about Lily sleeping at her mother's apartment tonight, the cramped 1-bedroom where Emma couldn't afford her own place. Thought about Derek's smug lawyer with his expensive suits and his arguments about Emma's unstable lifestyle. Thinking about the electricity bill she'd had to choose over groceries last week. Separate bedrooms, she confirmed. Completely separate. You'd have your own wing of the penthouse. And after a year, I walk away. No strings. No strings. Clean divorce. Ironclad NDA. You never have to see me again. Emma picked up the pen he'd placed on top of the contract. Her hand shook slightly. My daughter, she can't know this isn't real. I won't lie to her, but I won't confuse her either. Something shifted in Alexander's expression. We'll figure that out. Whatever she needs. Okay. Emma pressed the pen to paper, her whole life pivoting on this moment. Okay, I'll do it. Alexander's shoulders dropped slightly, like he'd been holding tension she hadn't even noticed. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Emma said, signing her name in careful script. You're about to be married to a broke waitress. Your family is going to lose their minds. Good, Alexander said, and for the first time he smiled, a real smile that softened his severe features into something almost boyish. I could use a little chaos in my life. Emma had no idea how prophetic those words would be. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old money. Emma sat in a chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent, watching Alexander Kingsley's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Victoria Chun, flip through documents with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Standard prenuptial agreement, Victoria said, sliding the first stack toward Emma. Mr. Kingsley's assets remain entirely separate. You have access to credit cards for household expenses and appropriate wardrobe, but no access to business accounts or investment portfolios. Emma's own lawyer, a kind man in his 60s named Sam Rodriguez, whom Alexander had hired for her that very morning, leaned over to review the pages. "This is actually quite generous," Sam murmured. "Most prenups of this magnitude are far more restrictive." "Page 7, Victoria continued, outlines your responsibilities. You'll be expected to attend charity galas, business dinners, and family functions as needed. Mr. Kingsley estimates approximately 3 to 4 events per month. You'll have a stylist and assistant to help you prepare." Emma's head spun. 24 hours ago, she'd been worried about making rent. Now she was reviewing contracts for charity galas. What about Lily? Alexander, who'd been standing by the window, watching the city below, turned. In daylight, he was even more imposing, 6 feet of controlled power in another devastatingly perfect suit. "What about her?" "The contract says I'll be living in your penthouse. Can my daughter live with us?" Victoria and Alexander exchanged a look. "That wasn't in the original terms," Victoria said carefully. "Then we need new terms." Emma straightened her spine, channeling every ounce of backbone she possessed. "I'm not leaving my 6-year-old daughter. If this is going to work, if I'm going to sell this marriage as real, I need to be with my child. Besides, what kind of married woman doesn't have her kid with her? That'll raise questions." Alexander crossed his arms, considering. "She has a point." "Alexander," Victoria warned, "a child complicates things significantly. Custody arrangements, schooling, the divorce settlement." "I don't want his money for Lily," Emma interrupted. "I want my own money for Lily, the $5 million I'm earning. But I need her with me. That's non-negotiable." The room fell silent. Emma's heart hammered. This was it, the moment where Alexander would realize she was too much trouble and find someone easier, someone without complications. Instead, he nodded, add an amendment. "The child lives with us. We'll enroll her in the best school in the district. Emma maintains full custody. I'm not claiming any parental rights. When the marriage ends, living arrangements for the child will be..." He looked at Emma. "What do you want?" Emma blinked. No one had asked her what she wanted in years. "I want enough money to buy a house. Nothing huge, just something stable. 3 bedrooms, good school district. I want Lily to have a home." "Done," Alexander said. "Victoria, make sure the settlement includes funds for a house purchase. 300 square feet minimum. Location to be chosen by Emma." Victoria's pen flew across her legal pad. "This is highly irregular." "My entire marriage is highly irregular," Alexander said dryly. "At least this way it'll look legitimate. Married man with a family. Marcus can't argue I'm too unstable to run the company when I'm raising a 6-year-old. "I'm raising her," Emma corrected. "You're just in the vicinity." His lips twitched. "Of course." They signed papers for 3 hours. By the time Emma walked out of that office, she was legally engaged Alexander Kingsley, with a wedding scheduled for the following week. A private ceremony, Victoria explained. Just immediate family and necessary witnesses. They'd release one official photo to the press, make one statement, and then retreat into their very private married life. "The press is going to have a field day," Victoria warned, "once they find out Alexander married a waitress." "Let them," Alexander said. "Better they focus on that than on the inheritance battle." Emma stepped out into the hallway, her mind reeling. Sam touched her shoulder gently. Are you sure about this? No, she admitted, but I'm sure about Lily. And right now that's enough. Alexander's driver took them to the penthouse, a sprawling 3-story apartment in the most expensive building in the city. The elevator opened directly into the foyer, and Emma's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire downtown skyline. Modern art hung on pristine white walls. Everything was chrome and glass and cold perfection. Your wing is to the right, Alexander said, his tone businesslike again. The momentary warmth from the lawyer's office had evaporated. Master suite, guest room that we can convert to your daughter's bedroom, private bathroom. My wing is to the left. Kitchen and living spaces are shared, but I'm rarely home before 8 p.m. Emma walked through the rooms in a daze. Her bedroom alone was larger than her entire apartment. The attached bathroom had a tub that could fit 4 people and a shower with more knobs than she knew what to do with. The guest room had a view of the park and was already painted a soft lavender. I'll have it redecorated, Alexander said from the doorway. Whatever your daughter likes. She likes elephants, Emma said quietly, and the color purple. And books. She loves being read to. Why was she telling him this? He didn't care. This was a business arrangement. But Alexander pulled out his phone and typed something. I'll have my assistant order age-appropriate books and elephant-themed decorations. I should be here by tomorrow. You don't have to. Yes, I do, he interrupted. If this is going to be believable, I need to act like I care about my stepdaughter. Might as well start now. He paused at the door. Dinner is at 7. We need to discuss the wedding and coordinate our story. My family will ask questions. After he left, Emma sat on the edge of the enormous bed and pulled out her phone. Her mother answered on the first ring. Mija, where are you? You didn't come home last night. Is everything okay? Emma took a deep breath. Mom, I need you to bring Lily to this address. She rattled off the penthouse location. And Mom, there's something I need to tell you. I'm getting married. The explosion of rapid-fire Spanish on the other end made Emma wince. She let her mother rant for a solid minute before interrupting. It's complicated, but it's going to fix everything. The custody case, the money problems, all of it. Just trust me, please. Her mother's voice turned suspicious. Emma Rosa Torres, what did you do? What I had to do, Emma said softly. For Lily. Always for Lily. Dinner at 7 turned out to be takeout Chinese food eaten at the massive dining table, while Alexander explained his family in clinical detail. His grandfather, the company founder, his parents, who died in a plane crash when he was 20, his cousin Marcus, the snake who was trying to steal everything, his Aunt Caroline, Marcus's mother, who'd never forgiven Alexander's father for being chosen as successor over her. They're going to hate you, Alexander said, spearing a piece of Kung Pao chicken. Not personally. They'd hate anyone I married who wasn't from their approved list of society daughters. Good to know, Emma muttered. The wedding is Saturday. Just family, like Victoria said. Wear something nice but not too expensive. We want to look like this was a spontaneous love match, not a calculated move. Even though it is a calculated move. Especially because it's a calculated move. Alexander's eyes met hers. Can you act, Emma? Can you stand in front of my family and my lawyers and the press and sell this? Because if you can't, we need to know now. Emma thought about the hundreds of times she'd smiled at rude customers. The thousands of times she pretended everything was fine when it wasn't. The way she taught herself to perform stability for every social worker, every teacher, every judge who'd evaluated her fitness as a mother. I can act, she said. Can you? Alexander's smile was sharp. I've been acting my entire life. They clinked their water glasses together in a mock toast, sealing a bargain that would change everything. In 1 week, Emma Torres would become Emma Kingsley, wife to a billionaire, a player in a game she barely understood. She just hoped she didn't lose herself in the process. The dress was simple, cream silk, tea-length, elegant without being ostentatious. Emma stared at her reflection in the floor-length mirror of the penthouse guest room, barely recognizing herself. A professional stylist had done her hair and makeup, transforming her tired waitress face into something that belonged in a magazine. Her mother stood behind her, tears streaming down her face. "You look so beautiful, Mija," her mother whispered in Spanish. "Are you sure? This man, this Alexander, you barely know him." Emma met her mother's eyes in the mirror. They'd had this conversation 17 times in the past week. "I know enough. He's giving us a chance, Mama. A real chance." What she didn't say, "I know this is crazy. I know I'm selling myself. I know that in a year, I'll be divorced and alone again. But Lily would be safe. That was worth any price." A knock at the door made them both turn. Lily burst in, wearing the purple dress Emma's mother had bought for the occasion, her dark curls bouncing. "Mommy, you look like a princess." Emma crouched down, ignoring her mother's warning about wrinkling the dress. "You look like a princess too, baby. Is Mr. Alexander really going to be my new daddy?" Lily's brown eyes were wide with hope and confusion. Emma's heart clenched. This was the part she dreaded. "Mr. Alexander is going to be my husband," she said carefully. "That means he'll live with us and take care of us. But your daddy is still your daddy, okay? Nothing changes that. Even if your daddy is trying to take you away from me." She didn't add. "Okay," Lily said, apparently satisfied with this explanation. "Mr. Alexander said I could have an elephant." "He what?" "When he came to Abuela's house to meet me, he asked what I wanted most in the world, and I said an elephant. He said he couldn't get me a real one, but he could get me a really big stuffed one. Is that true?" Emma was going to kill him. They'd agreed he would meet Lily, let her get comfortable with the idea of him. They had not agreed on bribery via stuffed animals. "We'll see," Emma said, which was mother code for probably yes. The ceremony took place in the penthouse's living room, which had been transformed with white flowers and soft lighting. A judge Alexander knew personally stood by the windows, and the only witnesses were Victoria Chun, Emma's mother, Lily, and Alexander's Aunt Caroline with her son Marcus. Caroline was exactly what Emma had expected. 60 years old, perfectly preserved, wearing Chanel and disapproval in equal measure. Marcus was handsome in a slick way, with 2 white teeth and eyes that assessed Emma like she was an interesting bug under glass. "How quaint," Caroline murmured as Emma entered. A traditional bride. Alexander appeared at Emma's side, looking devastating in a charcoal suit. He took her hand, and Emma felt calluses on his palm. Somehow that surprised her. She'd expected the hands of a man who'd never worked a day in his life. "You look beautiful," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then quieter, just for her, "You okay?" "Terrified," she admitted. "Good. That makes 2 of us." The ceremony lasted 10 minutes. Emma said, "I do," while staring at Alexander's tie, because she couldn't quite meet his eyes. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Alexander kissed her, brief, chaste, for show. But Emma felt it all the way to her toes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the judge said with a smile, "I present Mr. and Mrs. Kingsley." Mrs. Kingsley. Emma Torres was gone, replaced by this new person in silk and makeup. The reception was champagne and catered appetizers. Emma stood by Alexander's side, while Caroline circled like a shark. "You'll have to tell me," Caroline said, her voice honey-sweet and venomous, "how exactly you 2 met. Alexander's been so secretive about your courtship." "We met at a diner," Alexander said smoothly. "I'd had a terrible day, went for a drive to clear my head. Emma was working a late shift. We started talking. Sometimes the right person shows up when you least expect it. It wasn't entirely a lie, which made it more effective." "A diner," Caroline repeated. "How romantic. And you're a waitress?" "I was," Emma corrected, lifting her chin. "Now I'm a wife and mother. Full-time job right there." Marcus laughed, the sound sharp. "Well played. But you'll forgive me for being curious about the timing. 1 week before grandfather's deadline, Alexander suddenly produces a wife and stepdaughter. Quite convenient." "Quite fortunate," Alexander countered. His hand found Emma's lower back, a possessive gesture that sent heat up her spine. "I found someone who loves me for me, not my bank account. Can you say the same, Marcus?" The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Victoria Chun smoothly intervened, directing everyone toward the food, but the damage was done. Battle lines were drawn. Later, after Caroline and Marcus had left with thinly veiled threats about contesting the will anyway, after the judge and Victoria had departed, after Emma's mother had taken Lily back to her apartment for one final night before the move, Emma found herself alone with Alexander in the suddenly quiet penthouse. She kicked off the designer heels that had been torturing her feet for hours. "Your family is terrifying. They'll get worse before they get better," Alexander said, loosening his tie. "Caroline is already calling her lawyers. This isn't over. Will it work? This marriage thing. It has to." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter, handed her one, to the happy couple. Emma took a sip, coughing as the liquid burned. "I don't drink whiskey." "You do now. You're Kingsley." But he smiled slightly, and Emma saw exhaustion behind it. How much pressure was he under? How much of this perfect, controlled exterior was performance? "Can I ask you something?" Emma said. "Why didn't you just actually get married? Find someone from your world who could do this for real." Alexander was quiet for a long moment, staring into his glass. "Because everyone in my world wants something. Money, status, connections. I've watched too many love matches turn into business mergers. At least with you, I know exactly what we both want. At least this is honest." "Honest," Emma repeated. "We just lied to everyone we know. We made a contract. We're fulfilling its terms. That's more honest than most marriages I've seen." He set down his glass. "I should let you rest. Tomorrow we move your daughter in, get her settled. The press will have the wedding announcement by then. Things are going to get chaotic." Emma watched him walk toward his wing of the penthouse, this stranger she'd married. "Alexander?" He paused, looking back. "Thank you," she said, "for the elephant, for being kind to Lily. You didn't have to do that." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, like kindness was unexpected. "She's a good kid, and she's part of this now, whether we planned it or not. Might as well make it bearable for her." After he disappeared into his rooms, Emma walked to her bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, wedding dress rustling. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Derek and a text message. "Heard you got married. Doesn't matter. See you in court." Emma deleted the message and pulled up the photo Victoria had taken of her and Alexander during the ceremony. They looked like a real couple, his hand on her waist, her smile genuine for once, Lily beaming between them. For 1 year, this would be her life. 1 year of playing house with a billionaire who saw her as a business transaction. 1 year of pretending this cold, beautiful apartment was home. Emma lay back on the bed, still in her wedding dress, and wondered if a person could forget what was real if they pretended long enough. She was about to find out. 3 months into the marriage, Emma had learned several things about Alexander Kingsley. He woke up at 5 a.m. every morning and went for a run, returning by 6:30 with coffee from the shop 3 blocks away. Always black for him, always a vanilla latte for her, even though she'd never asked for it. He worked until at least 9 p.m. most nights, coming home with his tie loosened and exhaustion in his eyes. He was brilliant with numbers, but terrible at remembering to eat. And he was unexpectedly, devastatingly good with Lily. That last part confused Emma the most. She watched from the kitchen as Alexander sat on the floor of the living room, helping Lily build an elaborate castle out of blocks. He ditched his suit jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, and he was explaining architectural principles to a 6-year-old like she was a graduate student. "See, the foundation has to be strongest here," he said, pointing. "That's what holds everything else up. Like how Mommy holds everything up for us." Lily asked innocently. Alexander glanced at Emma, something unreadable in his expression. "Yeah, like that." Emma's phone buzzed. Another message from her lawyer. "Custody hearing postponed again. Derek's team is stalling. But your financial situation is now considered stable. Living with Alexander has eliminated their primary argument." Relief flooded through her. The marriage was working. The contract was protecting them. In 9 more months, she could walk away with enough money to ensure Lily never suffered again. So why did the thought of leaving make her chest tight? "Mommy, come see." Lily called. Mr. Alexander, and I made a castle with a tower and everything. It's just Alexander, Alexander corrected gently. You don't have to call me Mr., but you're a grown-up, Lily said confused. I'm also your... He hesitated, looking at Emma for guidance. Friend, Emma supplied. Alexander is Mommy's friend. Lily seemed satisfied with this. Okay, Alexander is my friend too. That evening, they had dinner together. Another habit that had formed without discussion. Alexander had started coming home earlier, claiming he could work from the penthouse just as easily as the office. They'd fallen into a routine. Emma cooked. Because Alexander's idea of cooking was ordering from the best restaurants in the city, Lily chatted about school, and Alexander asked surprisingly thoughtful questions about a 6-year-old's day. We learned about butterflies, Lily announced, swinging her legs under the table. Did you know they start as caterpillars? That's called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, Alexander corrected, but gently. That's a big word. You're smart. Lily beamed under praise. Emma's heart did something complicated in her chest. After Lily went to bed, Emma found Alexander on the balcony, whiskey in hand, staring at the city lights. You're good with her, Emma said, joining him. The October air was crisp, and she wrapped her cardigan tighter. She's easy to be good with. She's... He struggled for words. Uncomplicated. Honest. She likes me because I build blocks with her, not because I have money. Most people aren't that mercenary. Most people in my life are. He took a sip of whiskey. Present company excluded. You've been remarkably unbothered by the money. Because it's not mine, Emma said. Not really. I'm earning it like any other job. Is that what this is? A job? Emma didn't answer because she wasn't sure anymore. The lines had blurred. She'd started noticing things. How Alexander's jaw tightened when he was stressed. How he hummed classical music under his breath when he concentrated. How he left sticky notes on the coffee maker with reminders about Lily's school events. She'd started caring when he came home late and started worrying when he looked exhausted. That wasn't in the contract. I have a gala this weekend, Alexander said, changing the subject. One of my grandfather's charities. Black tie, lots of cameras. Are you ready? They'd attended 2 events already, and Emma had hated every minute. The stares, the whispers, the way other women looked at her like she was a gold digger who'd won the lottery. But she nodded. I'll be ready. Victoria wants us to do an interview. Just one with a major magazine. Control the narrative before someone else does. What would we even say? The truth. His eyes met hers. That we met unexpectedly. That it was fast but right. That we're happy. Are we? The question slipped out before Emma could stop it. Happy. Alexander turned to face her fully. In the moonlight. He looked younger, less guarded. I thought this would feel like a cage. A year of pretending. Playing a role. But it doesn't. This apartment feels more like a home than it has in the 10 years I've lived here. Lily makes it. He laughed softly. She makes it loud. Messy. Real. She does tend to do that, Emma agreed, trying to lighten the moment. And you... Alexander's voice dropped. You make it warm. I come home now because I want to, not because I have to. That wasn't part of the contract. Emma's breath caught. They were standing too close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes. Alexander. I know, he interrupted. I know what we agreed on. No falling in love. This is business. But Emma, His phone rang, shattering the moment. Alexander pulled it out, cursing when he saw the screen. It's my lawyer. I have to take this. He disappeared inside, and Emma stood alone on the balcony, her heart racing. What had he been about to say? More importantly, what had she been hoping he'd say? She was in dangerous territory. The contract was clear. 1 year, no emotional entanglement, clean break. But her traitorous heart hadn't read the fine print. The gala that weekend was at a historic hotel downtown. Emma wore a navy blue gown that Victoria's stylist had selected, her hair swept up diamonds borrowed from Alexander's family vault glittering at her throat. She looked like she belonged in this world, even though she felt like an imposter. Alexander appeared in a tuxedo that should have been illegal, and when he saw her, he stopped dead. "You look incredible." "Victoria's stylist gets all the credit," Emma deflected. "I don't think so." His eyes held hers for a moment too long, and Emma felt heat crawl up her neck. The gala was a blur of champagne and small talk, wealthy people discussing their vacation homes, while photographers circled like vultures. Emma smiled until her face hurt. Alexander's hand steady at the small of her back. Then she saw Derek. Her ex-husband stood near the bar, wearing a rented tux and a smug expression. His new wife, Amanda, blonde, pristine, everything Emma wasn't, clung to his arm. "What is he doing here?" Emma hissed. Alexander followed her gaze, his expression darkening. "His firm does consulting for one of the companies here. I'll have him removed." "No." Emma straightened her spine. "I'm not running from him." Derek spotted them and made his way over, Amanda in tow. "Emma, fancy seeing you here. I heard you'd married up. Congratulations." The word was poison in his mouth. "Derek," Emma said evenly. "Amanda, you look different," Derek said, his eyes raking over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Playing dress-up with someone else's money." Alexander's hand tightened on Emma's waist. "You must be the ex-husband. Emma's mentioned you." "Has she?" Derek's smile was sharp. "Funny, because the Emma I knew could barely afford groceries. Now suddenly she's living in a penthouse? Quite the upgrade. Makes a man wonder what she did to earn it." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Emma felt Alexander go rigid beside her. "Careful," Alexander said, his voice deadly quiet. "That's my wife you're talking about." "Your wife?" Derek laughed. "For how long? Everyone knows this is a setup. You needed a wife to secure your inheritance. She needed money to fight me in court. It's all over the legal gossip circles. Hell of a coincidence that you two got married right before the deadline." Emma's face burned. Around them, people were starting to stare. "The only coincidence," Emma said, finding her voice, "is that I met someone who treats me with respect. Something you never manage in 5 years of marriage." "Respect." Derek's laugh was ugly. "You're a paycheck to him, Emma. A convenient solution. You think he actually cares about you? About Lily? Once that inheritance is secure, you'll be—" Alexander moved so fast Emma barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he had Derek by the lapels, backing him against a marble column. Security started moving toward them. "Listen very carefully," Alexander said, his voice conversational but his eyes blazing. "You will drop the custody suit. You will leave Emma alone. And you will never, ever speak about my wife or my stepdaughter again. Because if you do, I will make it my personal mission to ensure that every firm in the city knows exactly what kind of man you are. I'll bury you in litigation until you're drowning in legal fees. Do we understand each other?" Derek's face had gone pale. "You can't." "I absolutely can. I have more lawyers than you have brain cells, and they're very, very good at making problems disappear." Alexander released him, smoothing Derek's lapels with exaggerated care. "Now, I believe you and your wife were just leaving." Security appeared, and after a whispered conversation, they escorted Derek and Amanda toward the exit. The entire exchange had taken less than 2 minutes, but Emma felt like she'd lived a lifetime in that span. Alexander turned back to her, concern replacing the fury in his eyes. "Are you okay?" Emma wasn't sure. Her hands were shaking, but she managed to nod. They left the gala early, riding home in silence. Emma stared out the car window at the city passing by, trying to process what had just happened. Alexander had defended her, not just offended. He'd gone to war for her. "I'm sorry," Alexander said finally. "I shouldn't have lost my temper." That's what Derek wanted, to get a reaction. "Thank you," Emma interrupted. He looked at her, surprised. "No one's ever—" Emma's voice cracked. "No one's ever stood up for me like that. Derek spent our entire marriage making me feel small. And you treated me like I mattered." "You do matter," Alexander said fiercely. And not because of the contract. Emma, he stopped, jaw tight. We should talk, really talk, about what this is becoming. Emma's heart hammered. What do you mean? I mean that this stopped being business, somewhere along the way. I mean that I come home early because I want to see you, not just Lily. I mean that the thought of you leaving in 9 months makes me. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I'm violating the contract. I know I am, but I can't seem to stop. Alexander. You don't have to say anything. I know what we agreed on. I just needed you to know. Because pretending is getting harder every day. The car pulled up to their building. They rode the elevator in charred silence. When they reached the penthouse, Emma's mother was waiting with a sleeping Lily. She was an angel, her mother said, gathering her purse. Then she looked between Emma and Alexander, her knowing eyes missing nothing. You two look like you had an interesting evening. Something like that, Emma murmured, after her mother left. Emma carried Lily to bed, tucking the covers around her daughter's small body. Lily stirred, mumbling something about elephants and castles before falling back asleep. Emma found Alexander in the kitchen, pouring coffee even though it was nearly midnight. I can't sleep, he explained. Too much adrenaline. Emma took the mug he offered, their fingers brushing. The touch sent electricity up her arm. We do need to talk. I know. The contract says no falling in love. I remember. But it doesn't say anything about friendship, Emma continued carefully, or about caring for someone, or about this thing between us that isn't quite business anymore, but isn't quite. Love, Alexander supplied. Emma met his eyes. I don't know what it is, but I know that I don't want to stop, and I know that in 9 months, walking away is going to hurt more than I thought possible. So don't walk away. The words hung between them. We could renegotiate, find a new arrangement. Like what? Stay married forever? Alexander, that's not. Why not? He set down his mug, moving closer. Give me one good reason why not. Because it wasn't part of the plan. Because you hired me to solve a problem, not to be an actual wife. Because this was supposed to be temporary. Plans change. Problems get solved in unexpected ways. And temporary is starting to feel like the worst idea I've ever had. Emma's breath caught as Alexander reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered against her cheek. I know we said no falling in love, he murmured. But I think I've been breaking that rule since the night you signed the contract. Maybe even before that, when you looked at me in that diner with so much fire in your eyes, ready to fight the whole world for your daughter. Alexander, we can't. Yes, we can. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. We can do whatever we want. We can rewrite the contract. We can tear it up entirely. We can start over, do this right. What if it doesn't work? Emma whispered. What if we try and it falls apart and Lily gets hurt? What if we don't try and we spend the rest of our lives wondering what if? He was right. God help her. He was right. Because somewhere between signing papers and building block castles, between charity galas and quiet dinners, Emma had fallen completely and utterly in love with Alexander Kingsley. Okay, she breathed. Okay, let's rewrite the contract. Alexander's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. There's just one more clause we need to address. What's that? This. And then he was kissing her. Really kissing her, not the chase peck from their wedding, but something deep and desperate and real. Emma melted into it, her hands fisting in his shirt, all her carefully constructed walls crumbling. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander pressed his forehead to hers. I've wanted to do that for 3 months. Me too, Emma admitted. The new contract starts now, he said. No more pretending. No more separate bedrooms. No more. A sleepy voice interrupted from a hallway. Why are you kissing Mommy? They sprang apart to find Lily standing in her pajamas, an elephant tucked under one arm, looking more curious than upset. Emma's face flamed. Lily, sweetie, you should be in bed. Are you married for real now? Lily asked Alexander. Like the princes and princesses in my books? Alexander knelt down to Lily's level, and Emma's heart squeezed at the sight. Would that be okay with you? He asked seriously. If your mom and I were married for real? Lily considered this with the gravity of a 6-year-old making a life-altering decision. Will you still build castles with me? Every day if you want. And you'll live here forever? You won't leave like... She trailed off, but everyone knew she meant like Daddy left. Alexander's expression softened. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. Okay, then. Lily nodded, satisfied. You can be my for real daddy. Then she yawned. I'm sleepy. Emma carried her back to bed, and this time Lily was asleep before her head hit the pillow. When Emma returned to the living room, Alexander was standing by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I meant it, he said without turning around. The promise to Lily. I know I'm not her father, but if you'll let me, I'd like to be, not on paper. Derek will always be her biological father, but in the ways that matter. Emma crossed him, wrapping her arms around him from behind. She already loves you. She has for weeks. And you? Alexander turned to her embrace, his hands settling on her waist. Do you love me, Emma? Because I need to know. Before we tear up contracts and rewrite rules, I need to know if this is real for you, too. Emma looked up at this man who'd started as a desperate stranger in a diner and become her everything. I love you, she said simply. I think I started loving you the moment you asked me what Lily's favorite color was. Because you cared. Because you saw us, really saw us, not as problems to solve, but as people worth knowing. Alexander kissed her again, slower this time, sweet and sure. Marry me, he murmured against her lips. We're already married. Marry me again, for real this time. No contracts, no conditions, no expiration date. Just you and me and Lily, building a life together. Emma pulled back, laughing through sudden tears. That's the worst business proposal I've ever heard. Good thing this isn't business anymore. His smile was pure joy. So, will you? Yes, Emma said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They stood there in their penthouse, holding each other as the city sparkled below, and Emma realized something. The contract had saved her life, but love had given her a reason to live it. The rest, as they say, was just details. Love, Emma discovered, didn't solve everything. 2 weeks after Alexander's proposal, the real one, with a ring he designed himself featuring Lily's birthstone alongside Emma's, Marcus filed a lawsuit claiming the marriage was fraudulent. The morning Emma saw the headlines, she dropped her coffee mug. It shattered across the marble floor of the kitchen, and she stared at her phone screen in horror. Kingsley heirs' marriage under investigation. Was it all for the money? The article had everything. Photos from the diner where they'd met, interviews with Emma's former co-workers speculating about the whirlwind romance, even quotes from Derek's lawyer calling the timing suspiciously convenient. Someone had leaked the original contract. Emma? Alexander appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work. What's wrong? She showed him the phone. I watched the color drain from his face. That bastard, he breathed. Marcus found the contract. He must have paid off someone at Victoria's firm. Everyone knows. Emma's voice was hollow. Everyone knows it started as fake. They think we're still pretending. We'll fix this. Alexander was already calling his lawyer, pacing the kitchen. We'll release a statement. We'll explain. Explain what? That yes, we signed a contract, but then we really did fall in love? Alexander, no one will believe that. It sounds like exactly what two people caught in a lie would say. The phone rang before Alexander could respond. Victoria Chun, calling an emergency meeting. At the lawyer's office 2 hours later, the mood was grim. Victoria had the contract spread across her conference table. Not the version they'd signed, but a leaked copy with certain sections highlighted in yellow. They're focusing on these clauses, Victoria said, pointing. The payment structure, the 1-year term, the clause about maintaining the appearance of a happy marriage. It looks bad, Alexander. It was bad, Alexander said flatly. That's why we tore it up. That's why we're actually married now. No contracts, no conditions. Can you prove that? Victoria asked. Because right now, it's your word against a very damning paper trail. Marcus Kingsley chose that moment to arrive. apparently having been invited by his own lawyers who were now in the room. He looked smug, predatory. "Cousin," Marcus said pleasantly. "Emma, such a shame about this mess. Although I did warn you, didn't I? That trying to circumvent grandfathers would end badly." Alexander stood, his hands clenched into fists. "You leaked a confidential legal document. That's illegal. Prove it." Marcus's smile widened. "But even if I did, it doesn't change the facts. You hired a wife. The marriage was contractual. Everything else, the touching love story, the stepdaughter, all of it, is window dressing. The will specified a legitimate marriage. This isn't legitimate." "The marriage is real," Emma said, finding her voice. "We filed legal paperwork. We said vows. You performed a transaction," Marcus interrupted. "A very expensive one. $5 million for a year of playing house. That's not a marriage, Mrs. Kingsley. That's prostitution with better lawyers." Alexander lunged. It took 3 people to hold him back, and Emma watched in horror as her controlled, composed husband transformed into something feral. "Say that again," Alexander snarled. "Say one more word about my wife, and I will destroy you." "This is exactly what I'm talking about," Marcus said, not even ruffled. "Unstable, emotional, unfit to run grandfather's company. The board will see this, Alexander. They'll see you married a waitress for money, got caught, and now you're having a meltdown. How long before you thank the company for your poor judgment?" The meeting dissolved into chaos. Lawyers shouting, Marcus threatening to take everything to court, Victoria trying desperately to salvage the situation. Emma stood in the corner, watching her world implode. This was her fault. If she'd never signed that contract, if she'd just found another way. "Don't," Alexander said later in the car, reading her thoughts. "Don't you dare blame yourself." "How can I not? Marcus is right. We did start this as a transaction, and now everyone knows." "We started as a transaction," Alexander agreed. "But we're not that anymore. Emma, I love you. That's real. That's..." "Is it?" Emma's voice broke. "How do we even know, Alexander? How do I know that what I feel isn't just gratitude? You saved me. You saved Lily. Maybe I'm just confusing rescue with love." "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" Emma stared out the window. 3 months ago, I was sleeping in a studio apartment with roaches. Now I'm in a penthouse with a billionaire who's losing everything because of me. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe I am just... "Stop." Alexander pulled the car over so abruptly Emma gasped. They were on some side street downtown, and he turned to face her fully. "Listen to me. What Derek said, what Marcus is implying, it's poison. They want you to feel like this. They want you to doubt everything because if you leave, if we separate, then Marcus wins. Is that what you want?" "I want you to keep your inheritance," Emma said. "I want you to keep your grandfather's company. And if me being gone makes that happen, then I don't want it." Alexander's voice was steel. "Do you hear me? I don't want the company or the money or any of it if you're not here. You and Lily, you're my family now. That's worth more than $5 billion. Emma wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. But the headlines kept scrolling through her mind, each one a knife. Gold digger. Hired wife. Fraud. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Mija, I just saw the news. Are you okay? Is Lily safe?" Emma had forgotten about Lily. Her daughter was at school, blissfully unaware that her mother's face was plastered across every gossip site in the country. "We're fine, Mama. I'll explain everything later." But as she hung up, Emma realized the truth. They weren't fine. This scandal would follow Lily forever. When she Googled her own mother years from now, she'd find these articles. She'd read about the contract, about the accusations, about how her mother allegedly sold herself for $5 million. Emma couldn't breathe. "Take me home," she told Alexander. "Please, just take me home." At the penthouse, Emma went straight to her wing. Not their wing. Because sometime in the past 2 weeks they'd started sharing his master bedroom. But now she needed space, needed air, needed to think. She found Lily's room and sat on the small purple bed, surrounded by elephants and books and all the security she tried so hard to build. Alexander appeared in the doorway an hour later. "Emma, I need time," she said. "I need to think about what's best for Lily. We're what's best for Lily. Us together as a family. Are we?" Emma looked at him. "Or are we just two people who made a deal and then convinced ourselves it was love because that made it easier?" "You don't believe that." "I don't know what I believe anymore." The next 3 days were the worst of Emma's life. She and Alexander barely spoke, moving around each other like ghosts. Lily sensed something was wrong and became clingy, asking questions Emma couldn't answer. The press camped outside their building. Victoria called every few hours with updates, none of them good. Marcus's lawsuit was gaining traction. Several board members at Kingsley Industries were publicly questioning Alexander's judgment. Emma's face was everywhere, along with speculation about her past, her ex-husband, even her mother's immigration status. On the 4th day, Emma made a decision. She packed 3 suitcases, her clothes, Lily's stuffed elephants, the books Alexander had bought. She called her mother to pick them up. She wrote Alexander a letter because she couldn't face him, couldn't watch his face when she destroyed everything. "Alexander, I'm leaving, not because I don't love you. I do, more than I thought possible, but because loving you means protecting you, even from myself. Marcus will withdraw his lawsuit if I'm gone. The board will see you as stable again. Your grandfather's legacy will be safe. Keep the money, all of it. I don't want it. I never really did. What I wanted was a chance to give Lily a better life. But not like this. Not with photographers following her to school and kids whispering about her mother. She deserves better. We both do. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. Emma." She left a letter on the kitchen counter, gathered Lily, and walked toward the elevator. Her hand was on the button when Alexander's voice stopped her. "If you leave, I'm coming with you." Emma turned. Alexander stood in the hallway in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more disheveled than she'd ever seen him. His eyes were red. "You can't," Emma said. "The company. I'll resign. Give it all to Marcus. I don't care." "Alexander." "No, let me finish." He walked toward them, and Emma saw her letter crumpled in his hand. "You think leaving will save me?" "Emma, you are what saves me. Every day. From becoming like Marcus, like my grandfather, cold and calculating and alone. You and Lily, you made me human again. The lawsuit will happen whether you stay or go. Marcus isn't doing this because you exist. He's doing it because he wants power, and he'll use any excuse to get it. If it's not the marriage contract, it'll be something else." Lily tugged on Emma's hand. "Mommy, why are we leaving?" "I don't want to go." Emma's heart cracked clean through. "Baby, it's complicated." "No, it's not," Lily said with 6-year-old certainty. "We're a family. Families stay together." "Out of the mouths of babes," Alexander murmured. He knelt down to Lily's level. "Your mom is trying to protect me, because she's brave and selfless, and she thinks leaving will make things better. Will it?" Lily asked. "No." Alexander looked up at Emma. "It'll make everything worse. Because I love your mom, and I love you, and I don't know how to be me anymore without both of you." Emma's vision blurred with tears. "What if we can't beat this? What if Marcus wins and you lose everything? Then we lose everything together." Alexander stood, taking her hand. "That's what marriage means, Emma. The real kind, not the contract kind. We face things together. We fight together. And if we go down as a family." "I'm scared," Emma whispered. "Me too. But I'm more scared of a life without you in it." Lily wrapped her arms around both their legs, creating a small huddle in the hallway. "Please don't leave," she said, her voice muffled against Emma's jeans. "I like it here. I like our family." Emma looked at Alexander over their daughter's head. And yes, Lily was theirs now, both of theirs, because that's what love did. It erased biology and rewrote the rules. "Okay," Emma breathed. "Okay, we stay. We fight. Together," Alexander said firmly. "Together." They stood there, the 3 of them holding on to each other while Emma's mother waited in the lobby, and the press camped outside, and Marcus's lawsuit loomed over everything. But for the first time in days, Emma felt like maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. Because some things were worth fighting for. And this messy, complicated, beautiful family they'd accidentally built was worth everything. The press conference was Alexander's idea. "We control the narrative," he'd said the night before, pacing their bedroom while Emma sat cross-legged on the bed. "We go public, tell the whole truth, let people decide for themselves." The whole truth? Emma had asked, including the contract? Especially the contract. Marcus leaked it anyway. Now we own it. We explain what it was and what it became. Which was how Emma found herself sitting beside Alexander at a conference table, facing a room full of reporters and cameras, about to expose the most intimate details of her life to the world. Victoria Chin stood at the podium first, her voice crisp and professional. "Thank you all for coming. Mr. Kingsley and Mrs. Kingsley have asked to make a statement regarding recent allegations about their marriage. They will not be taking questions at this time." Alexander stood, and Emma watched him transform into the CEO version of himself. Shoulders back, voice steady, commanding the room with pure presence. "6 months ago," he began, "I was about to lose everything my grandfather built. A clause in his will required that I be married within 6 months or forfeit my inheritance to my cousin Marcus. I thought this was archaic and unfair. I fought it in court and lost. With time running out, I made a decision that I'm not proud of. I offered a stranger a contract marriage." The room erupted with camera flashes and murmured questions. Alexander held up his hand. That stranger was Emma Torres, a single mother working 2 jobs to support her daughter. She was facing her own crisis, a custody battle with an ex-husband who had better lawyers. I offered her money and legal support in exchange for a year of marriage. She accepted. We signed a contract. We got married. Everything you read about the origins of our relationship is true. Emma's stomach churned, her brown hands gripping the edge of the table. Here it came, the judgment, the condemnation. "But," Alexander continued, and his hand found Emma's under the table, squeezing tight. "Here's what the leaked contract doesn't show. It doesn't show Emma making breakfast for my business meetings because she noticed I forgot to eat. It doesn't show her daughter teaching me how to build block castles. It doesn't show the night Emma found me having a panic attack over quarterly reports and talked me through it. It doesn't show the 1,000 small moments where a business arrangement became a friendship, and a friendship became something more." He turned, looking directly at Emma. The room and cameras faded away. 3 months into our contract year, I asked Emma to marry me again. For real this time, with no papers and no conditions. Just because I'd fallen completely in love with her and couldn't imagine my life without her. She said yes. We tore up the original contract. What we have now isn't what we started with. It's better, it's real, and it's ours. Alexander looked back at the reporters. "My cousin Marcus is contesting the will, claiming our marriage is fraudulent. He's technically right about how it started, but he's wrong about what it is now. Emma and I are building a life together. We're raising her daughter together. We're partners in every sense of the word. If the court decides that's not enough, if they strip me of my inheritance, then so be it. I'll still have the things that matter." He sat down, and Emma realized it was her turn. Victoria nodded encouragingly. Emma stood on shaking legs, facing a room full of strangers who were about to judge every choice she'd ever made. "My name is Emma Torres Kingsley," she began, her voice quieter than Alexander's but steady. 6 months ago, I was a waitress living paycheck to paycheck. I'd escaped an abusive marriage, but my ex-husband was trying to take my daughter. I was desperate. When Alexander offered me a way out, I took it. Some of you will call that prostitution. So say I sold myself. Maybe you're right. Maybe I did." She paused, gathering courage. "But here's what I bought with that decision. Safety for my daughter. Time with a man who treats me like an equal. A chance to go back to school. A family that isn't based on who has power over whom. Love that I didn't know I deserved." Emma's voice cracked. "Alexander didn't save me. I saved myself. He just gave me the resources to do it. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing him as a business transaction and started seeing him as my best friend, as the person I wanted to build a life with, as the man I love. She looked directly into the main camera. So yes, our marriage started as a contract. But show me a marriage that doesn't involve some kind of negotiation. We just put ours on paper first. And when the paper didn't matter anymore, we stayed anyway. That's not fraud. That's choice. That's love. The room was silent when she sat down. Then, slowly, one reporter started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, half the room was applauding, and Emma's eyes burned with tears. Victoria quickly ended the conference before anyone could ask questions. As they left through a back entrance, Emma overheard two reporters talking. That was either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or the best con job. Does it matter which? They're clearly in love now. In the car, Emma finally allowed herself to break down. Alexander pulled her into his arms, and she sobbed into his shirt while their driver discreetly raised the privacy screen. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked when she could speak again. "I don't know, but it was a true thing. That has to count for something." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with opinions. #ContractMarriage trended worldwide. Think pieces appear within hours debating the ethics of their arrangement. Some people praised their honesty. Others condemned them for making a mockery of marriage. Emma's phone flooded with messages from people she'd gone to high school with, suddenly wanting to reconnect. But then something unexpected happened. A post went viral from a woman named Sarah who'd been in a similar situation. She'd married her husband because he needed a green card, and she needed help paying for her mother's cancer treatment. "We called it practical," she wrote. "But 5 years later, we're still together, still in love." Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst reasons. More stories followed. Hundreds of them. Thousands. People who'd married for health insurance, for immigration status, for financial security. People who'd started with contracts and ended with love. The narrative shifted from Billionaire's fraud to maybe this is more common than we thought. Marcus's lawsuit hit a snag when 3 board members publicly stated they'd gotten married for business reasons themselves and saw nothing wrong with Alexander's choice. The judge presiding over the inheritance case scheduled a hearing to review all evidence, including testimony from Emma, Alexander, and, surprisingly, Lily. The child may provide insight into the legitimacy of the family unit. The judge's clerk explained. Emma was terrified of putting Lily through a court appearance, but her daughter surprised her. "I want to help," Lily said seriously when they explained it to her. "I want to tell them about our family." The hearing was closed to the press, but open to family. Emma sat in the witness box, answering questions about the contract, about her relationship with Alexander, about how they'd fallen in love. Derek was there, looking smug until Emma's lawyer brought up his own financial motivations for the custody suit. Then it was Lily's turn. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judith Winters, looked down at the small girl in the witness chair and softened slightly. "Hello, Lily. Do you know why you're here?" "Because people think Mommy and Alexander aren't really married," Lily said. "But they are. I can tell." "How can you tell?" "Because Alexander reads me bedtime stories, even when Mommy says he doesn't have to. And Mommy makes Alexander's coffee every morning just the way he likes it. And they hold hands when they think I'm not looking. And sometimes I hear them laughing at night when they're watching movies. That's what married people do, right?" Judge Winters smiled. "That's exactly what married people do. My old daddy never did those things," Lily continued. "He didn't read to me. He didn't make Mommy laugh. Alexander does. So even if they started weird, they're married for real now. That's what matters, right? What's real now?" Emma heard Alexander inhale sharply beside her. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. The judge dismissed Lily with thanks and called for a 15-minute recess. Emma rushed to her daughter, pulling her into a fierce hug. "You were so brave, baby." "Did I help?" Lily asked. "You helped so much." When court reconvened, Judge Winters delivered her ruling. "This case has been unusual, to say the least. The evidence clearly shows that Mr. Kingsley and Mrs. Kingsley entered into a contractual marriage arrangement with specific financial terms. However, the evidence also shows that said contract was mutually dissolved, and the parties chose to remain married of their own free will. While I don't condone the circumventional clauses, I cannot rule that the current marriage is fraudulent when both parties and their child testify to its legitimacy. Emma's heart hammered. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Kingsley Sr.'s will specify marriage, not the motivation behind it. I find that Alexander Kingsley has met the terms of the inheritance. The estate will be distributed as originally outlined. Marcus shot to his feet, shouting objections. His lawyer tried to calm him while the judge gavelled for order. Mr. Kingsley, Judge Winter said sharply to Marcus, your contest is denied. This matter is closed. Emma didn't remember leaving the courthouse, didn't remember the car ride home, or the elevator up to the penthouse. She came back to herself standing in their living room, Alexander spinning Lily around while both of them laughed, and realized this was real. This was actually happening. They'd won. That night, after Lily was asleep, Emma and Alexander stood on their balcony overlooking the city. We should get married again, Alexander said suddenly. Emma laughed. We're already married. Twice, technically. I know, but I want to do it right this time. Big wedding, all our friends, your mother walking you down the aisle. I want everyone to see that this isn't business. This is forever. Forever, Emma repeated, testing the word. A year ago, forever had seemed like a prison sentence. Now it felt like a possibility. Okay. Let's do it. Let's get married for the third time, because apparently we need to make absolutely sure it sticks. Alexander kissed her, and Emma melted into it, marveling at how something that had started so transactionally had become the most real thing in her life. I love you, he murmured against her lips. Not because of the contract. Not because you saved my inheritance. Because you're you. Because you make me want to be better. Because coming home to you and Lily is the best part of every day. I love you too, Emma said. Even though you're a terrible cook and you work too much and you worry about things you can't control. That's weirdly specific. That's love. Seeing someone's flaws and choosing them anyway. They stood there as the city lights sparkled below, and Emma thought about the desperate woman who'd signed a contract 6 months ago. She wanted to tell that woman that it would be okay, that the risk would pay off in ways she couldn't imagine, that sometimes the worst decisions led to the best outcomes. But maybe that woman already knew. Maybe that's why she'd been brave enough to sign in the first place. Hey, Alexander said, pulling back slightly. What are you thinking about? Emma smiled. Just that I'd sign that contract again. Every time. In every universe. Even knowing how it would turn out. Especially knowing how it would turn out. Because this love, this family, this impossible beautiful mess was worth every risk. And it was theirs. Forever. The second wedding was everything the first one wasn't. Emma walked down an aisle lined with white roses while 200 guests watched, her mother's joyful tears falling as she placed Emma's hand in Alexander's. Lily served as flower girl, taking her responsibility so seriously that she carefully counted out exactly 10 petals per step. The ceremony took place at sunset in the Botanical Gardens, and when Alexander kissed his bride, the entire crowd burst into applause. At the reception, Emma's former co-workers from the diner surprised her by attending, bringing stories and laughter from those late-night shifts that felt like a lifetime ago. Her old manager toasted to the woman who served coffee and found her fairy tale, which made Emma laugh and cry at the same time. Alexander's business associates mingled with Emma's family, and somehow it worked, the blending of two completely different worlds into something new and beautiful. Marcus didn't attend, naturally. He lost a lawsuit and subsequently lost his position on the board of Kingsley Industries. Last Emma heard, he'd moved to Europe to pursue other opportunities. She didn't waste energy thinking about him. During their first dance, Alexander whispered in Emma's ear, "No contracts this time." "No contracts," Emma agreed. "Just promises. Forever promises. The best kind." Lily danced with them, standing on Alexander's shoes while he waltzed them both around the floor. She wore a purple dress that matched the flowers and had proclaimed herself the princess of the wedding that morning. Neither Emma nor Alexander had the heart to correct her. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Emma found herself on the terrace overlooking the gardens. Her mother joined her, wrapping an arm around her daughter's waist. "You look happy, Mija," her mother said in Spanish. "Truly happy." "I am, Mama. I really am. That man loves you, not for what you look like, not for what you can give him. He loves who you are." Emma thought about the contract they'd signed a year ago, about how desperate and scared she'd been, about how she'd thought she was selling herself but had actually been saving herself, about how the worst decision of her life had led to the best outcome. "I love him too," Emma said. "I love our life. I love who I am when I'm with him." Alexander appeared in the doorway, Lily asleep in his arms. Ready to go home? Home, not his penthouse or her apartment, but their home, the place they built together, one day at a time, one choice at a time. "Ready," Emma said. They drove through the city as Lily slept in the back seat, her flower-crowned askew, her stuffed elephant clutched tight. Alexander held Emma's hand over the center console, and she looked at the ring on her finger. Not the one from the contract wedding, but the new one he designed himself. 3 stones, one for him, one for her, one for Lily. A family, not the one she'd planned, not the one she'd expected, but the one she'd chosen, and the one that had chosen her back. And that made all the difference. The end.
If you enjoy watching this, please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.